In the scorching heat of the Egyptian desert, where the endless sands stretch toward infinity and the sun beats down with relentless intensity, there stands one of humanity's most enigmatic monuments. The Great Sphinx of Giza, with its weathered limestone body and mysterious human head, has gazed eastward toward the rising sun for millennia, keeping secrets that could fundamentally alter our understanding of ancient history and human civilization itself. For generations, conventional archaeology has maintained that this colossal guardian was carved during the 4th dynasty of the Old Kingdom, around 4,500 years ago, commissioned by the pharaoh Khafre as part of his pyramid complex. Yet beneath the surface of this accepted narrative lies a web of geological evidence, astronomical alignments, and archaeological anomalies that suggest a far more ancient and mysterious origin for this eternal sentinel. The story begins not with human hands wielding copper chisels, but with the patient work of water, flowing and pooling across the Giza plateau in an age when the Egyptian desert bloomed with vegetation and rivers carved channels through landscapes that are now bone dry. This is the tale of the Great Sphinx, as you have never heard it before, a narrative that challenges everything we thought we knew about the dawn of civilization and forces us to reconsider the very timeline of human achievement. Standing before the Sphinx today, most visitors see only the obvious features that have made it famous throughout the world. The massive lion's body, stretching 73 meters from paw to tail, carved from a single outcrop of limestone bedrock. The human head, disproportionately small compared to the body, bearing the weathered features that some claim represent Khafre himself. The missing nose, lost to time and possibly to deliberate destruction. The modern restoration work that has replaced much of the original stone with newer blocks, creating a patchwork appearance that speaks to centuries of erosion and human intervention. But for those who know where to look, the Sphinx reveals far more subtle and intriguing details. The body bears the unmistakable marks of water erosion. Deep vertical channels and undulating patterns that speak of rainfall and flowing water rather than the wind and sand that characterize the current climate. These erosion patterns extend deep into the limestone, creating a weathering profile that would require thousands of years of precipitation to achieve, precipitation that has not occurred in this region within recorded history. To truly understand the significance of these erosion patterns, we must first examine the monument with the eyes of a geologist rather than an archaeologist. The limestone from which the Sphinx was carved tells its own story, a story written in layers of sedimentary rock that formed over millions of years when this entire region lay beneath an ancient sea. Each layer represents a different period in Earth's history, with varying compositions, hardness, and resistance to weathering. These variations create natural zones of weakness that water would exploit over time, carving channels and creating the distinctive patterns we see today. When rainfall occurs in limestone regions, the water does not simply run off the surface as it might on harder rocks like granite. Instead, limestone is slightly soluble in water, particularly when that water contains carbonic acid formed from atmospheric carbon dioxide. This chemical weathering process, known as carbonation, slowly dissolves the limestone along fractures and bedding planes, creating the deep vertical channels and undulating surfaces that characterize water erosion in sedimentary rocks. The process is gradual but relentless. Over centuries and millennia, rainwater seeping into cracks in the limestone gradually widens those cracks, creating channels that direct more water into the same pathways. The result is a distinctive pattern of deep vertical erosion channels separated by rounded ridges, exactly the pattern visible on the body of the Sphinx today. This type of erosion requires not just occasional rainfall but sustained precipitation over extended periods, the kind of climate that has not existed in Egypt for thousands of years. The geological evidence begins with the limestone itself, a sedimentary rock formed from ancient marine deposits when this entire region lay beneath a prehistoric sea. The layers of limestone vary in hardness and composition, creating natural zones of weakness that water would exploit over time. When geologists examine the Sphinx enclosure, the rectangular pit from which the monument was carved, they find erosion patterns that tell a compelling story about the climate conditions that existed when this carving was exposed to the elements. The most striking evidence appears in the form of deep vertical fissures and channels that run down the walls of the enclosure, patterns that are characteristic of water erosion rather than wind erosion. Wind erosion, which dominates the current desert environment, tends to create horizontal striations and relatively uniform wearing of surfaces. The constant abrasion of wind-blown sand creates a distinctive polishing effect, smoothing surfaces and creating horizontal grooves that follow the prevailing wind patterns. Water erosion, by contrast, follows the path of least resistance, creating vertical channels, undulating surfaces, and deep penetration into softer layers of rock. The Sphinx enclosure displays precisely these characteristics of water erosion, and the depth and extent of this erosion suggests exposure to significant rainfall over extended periods. The channels cut deep into the bedrock, sometimes penetrating several meters below the surface, indicating that substantial volumes of water flowed through this area over long periods of time. The pattern of erosion is not uniform across the monument, which provides additional clues about the environmental conditions that created it. The most severe water erosion appears on the body of the Sphinx and the walls of the enclosure, areas that would have been most exposed to rainfall and runoff. The head of the Sphinx, by contrast, shows less water erosion and more of the wind erosion patterns characteristic of the current desert climate. This difference suggests that the head may have been recarved or significantly modified after the original water erosion period ended. To understand the implications of this evidence, we must consider the climate history of the Sahara region. Modern Egypt receives virtually no rainfall, with most areas getting less than 25 millimeters per year. This arid climate has persisted for approximately 4,000 to 5,000 years, coinciding roughly with the conventional dating of the Sphinx. However, geological and paleoclimatic evidence reveals that the Sahara region experienced dramatically different conditions in the more distant past. The transformation of the Sahara from a green, well-watered landscape to the world's largest hot desert represents one of the most dramatic climate changes in recent geological history. This transformation was not gradual but occurred in pulses, with periods of increasing aridity punctuated by brief returns to more humid conditions. The final transition to full desert conditions occurred relatively rapidly, within just a few centuries around 5,000 years ago. During what scientists call the African humid period, which lasted from approximately 15,000 to 5,000 years ago, the Sahara was not a desert, but a green savanna dotted with lakes, rivers, and abundant vegetation. Archaeological evidence from this period includes rock art depicting elephants, giraffes, crocodiles, and other animals that require substantial water sources to survive. Ancient lake beds, now dry, can be traced across the region through satellite imagery and ground surveys. Pollen samples from sediment cores reveal the presence of tropical and subtropical plant species that could not survive in the current climate. The evidence for this dramatically different climate comes from multiple sources, each providing a different piece of the puzzle. Deep cores drilled into ancient lake beds contain layers of sediment that chronicle the environmental changes over thousands of years. These sediments contain pollen grains, microscopic fossils, and chemical signatures that reveal the types of plants and animals that lived in the region during different periods. The cores show a clear progression from arid conditions before 15,000 years ago through the humid period and back to arid conditions after 5,000 years ago. Marine sediment cores taken from the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of West Africa provide additional evidence for the timing and extent of Saharan climate change. During humid periods, increased vegetation in the Sahara reduced the amount of dust blown into the Atlantic, while arid periods produced massive dust storms that deposited distinctive layers of Saharan sand on the ocean floor. These marine records confirm the timing of the African humid period and show that it was part of a global pattern of climate change linked to variations in Earth's orbital cycles. This dramatic climate shift was driven by changes in Earth's orbital cycles, particularly the precession of the equinoxes, which affects the timing and intensity of seasonal weather patterns. During the African humid period, increased summer solar radiation in the northern hemisphere strengthened the African monsoon, bringing regular rainfall to regions that are now completely arid. The monsoon system drew moisture from both the Atlantic and Indian Oceans, creating a band of rainfall that extended across the entire width of the African continent. The strengthened monsoon did not just bring occasional showers, but established a reliable seasonal pattern of wet and dry periods that supported complex ecosystems across the Sahara. Rivers flowed year-round, fed by groundwater recharged during the wet seasons. Lakes formed in topographic depressions, some of them vast bodies of water comparable to the Great Lakes of North America. The largest of these ancient lakes, known as Lake Megachad, covered an area larger than the Caspian Sea and supported thriving communities of fish, crocodiles, and hippopotamuses. The transition from this humid period to the current arid conditions was not gradual, but occurred relatively rapidly in geological terms, over the course of just a few centuries around 5,000 years ago. This rapid transition was driven by feedback mechanisms in the climate system that amplified the effects of gradual orbital changes. As vegetation died back due to reduced rainfall, the land surface became more reflective, reducing the amount of solar energy absorbed and further reducing rainfall. The loss of vegetation also reduced the amount of moisture recycled back into the atmosphere through plant transpiration, creating a cascade of environmental changes that rapidly transformed the landscape. If the Sphinx bears the erosion patterns of this earlier, wetter climate, then its carving must predate the end of the African humid period by a significant margin to allow time for such extensive water erosion to occur. This would place the monument's creation not in the 4th dynasty, around 4,500 years ago, but potentially much earlier, perhaps 8,000 to 12,000 years ago, or even more. Such a dating would revolutionize our understanding of ancient Egyptian civilization and human technological capability in the prehistoric period. The implications of such an early date extend far beyond the simple question of when the Sphinx was carved. If sophisticated stone carving techniques existed in the Nile Valley 8 to 12,000 years ago, it suggests the presence of complex societies with advanced technological knowledge during a period when conventional archaeology places only simple hunter-gatherer cultures in the region. This would require a complete revision of our understanding of the development of human civilization in northeastern Africa. The geological argument gains additional support when we examine the broader Giza plateau and compare the erosion patterns of different monuments. The pyramids of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure, which are conventionally dated to the 4th dynasty and are accepted by mainstream archaeology, show erosion patterns consistent with wind and sand abrasion over the past 4.5 millennia. Their surfaces display the horizontal striations and uniform wearing characteristic of desert conditions, with sharp edges softened by millennia of wind-blown sand, but without the deep vertical channeling that characterizes water erosion. The difference in erosion patterns between the pyramids and the Sphinx is particularly striking when examined in detail. The pyramid blocks show a distinctive type of surface weathering known as desert varnish, a thin coating of iron and manganese oxides that forms on rock surfaces exposed to desert conditions over long periods. This varnish gives the pyramid stones their characteristic dark patina and provides protection against further weathering. The Sphinx, by contrast, shows little evidence of desert varnish formation, suggesting that its surfaces were shaped by different weathering processes. The Sphinx, by contrast, shows the deep vertical channeling and undulating surfaces characteristic of water erosion, suggesting it was exposed to different climatic conditions than the pyramids. The channels on the Sphinx body follow the natural joints and bedding planes in the limestone, indicating that water was able to penetrate deep into the rock structure over extended periods. Some of these channels extend several meters into the body of the monument, far deeper than could be achieved by wind erosion alone. Even more intriguing is the evidence from the Sphinx Temple and the Valley Temple, massive structures built from enormous limestone blocks that were quarried from the Sphinx enclosure itself. These temples also show signs of water erosion, particularly on their lower courses, but the pattern is different from that seen on the Sphinx itself. The temple blocks show erosion primarily on their exposed surfaces, while the Sphinx shows erosion throughout its body, suggesting that the monument was carved and exposed to water erosion before the temple blocks were quarried and assembled. The limestone blocks used in these temples are truly massive, with some weighing over 200 tons. The precision with which they were cut, transported, and fitted together represents an extraordinary feat of engineering that challenges our assumptions about the technological capabilities of ancient civilizations. The blocks fit together so precisely that a knife blade cannot be inserted between them, and this precision extends throughout structures that contain hundreds of these megalithic stones. The engineering challenges involved in working with such massive stones are staggering. Each block had to be quarried from the bedrock using tools and techniques that could achieve perfectly flat surfaces and precise right angles. The blocks then had to be transported from the quarry to their final positions, a process that would have required sophisticated knowledge of mechanics, leverage, and possibly even primitive machinery. Finally, the blocks had to be positioned with millimeter precision to achieve the tight joints visible today. The quarrying of these blocks from the Sphinx enclosure provides additional clues about the monument's age. The blocks were clearly removed after the Sphinx was carved, as evidenced by the fact that they were cut from the walls of the already existing enclosure. This means that the Sphinx predates the temples, but how much time elapsed between the carving of the monument and the quarrying of the temple blocks remains a matter of debate. The water erosion visible on both the Sphinx and the lower courses of the temple walls suggests that both were exposed to the wetter climate of the African humid period, but the different erosion patterns indicate they may have been exposed for different lengths of time. The sequence of construction becomes clearer when we examine the relationship between the different elements of the complex. The Sphinx was carved first, creating the enclosure from which the temple blocks were later quarried. The temples were then constructed using these quarried blocks, but they too show evidence of water erosion, indicating that they were built before the end of the humid period. This suggests a construction sequence that spanned a significant period of time, possibly centuries or even millennia, during which the climate remained humid enough to cause water erosion on exposed limestone surfaces. Chemical analysis of the limestone provides another layer of evidence for the monument's age. The original limestone of the Sphinx body shows a different chemical composition and weathering pattern compared to the restoration stones that have been added over the centuries. The original stone displays deep chemical weathering consistent with prolonged exposure to water and organic acids produced by vegetation, while the restoration stones show only surface weathering consistent with the current arid climate. The chemical weathering process involves more than simple dissolution of limestone by rainwater. In humid environments with abundant vegetation, organic matter in the soil produces organic acids that are much more effective at dissolving limestone than plain rainwater. These organic acids can penetrate deep into the rock structure, creating chemical changes that extend far below the visible surface. The Sphinx limestone shows evidence of this type of deep chemical weathering, with altered mineral compositions extending several centimeters into the rock from exposed surfaces. Microscopic examination of the limestone reveals additional details about the erosion process. The original Sphinx limestone contains evidence of biological weathering, including traces of root systems and organic matter that would have been present during periods of abundant vegetation. This biological component of the weathering process would have significantly accelerated the erosion of the monument during the humid period, helping to explain the extent of weathering visible today. The biological weathering process involves both physical and chemical mechanisms. Plant roots growing in cracks in the limestone exert tremendous pressure as they expand, gradually widening the cracks and creating new pathways for water penetration. At the same time, the roots and associated soil microorganisms produce organic acids that dissolve the limestone more rapidly than inorganic processes alone. The combination of these biological processes with purely physical and chemical weathering creates a complex pattern of rock alteration that is characteristic of humid, vegetated environments. The geological evidence extends beyond the immediate vicinity of the Sphinx to encompass the broader Giza plateau. Ancient water channels can be traced across the plateau, showing the paths of rivers and streams that once flowed through this now arid landscape. These channels show a clear relationship to the Sphinx enclosure, with evidence suggesting that water collected in the enclosure during periods of heavy rainfall, creating a temporary lake or pond that would have accelerated the erosion process. Detailed topographic mapping of the Giza Plateau reveals a complex network of ancient drainage channels that would have carried water from the higher elevations to the east down toward the Nile Valley to the west. The Sphinx enclosure sits at a key point in this drainage network, positioned where several channels converge. During periods of heavy rainfall, this location would have experienced concentrated water flow, creating ideal conditions for the type of erosion visible on the monument today. Sediment analysis from the Sphinx enclosure reveals layers of material that could only have been deposited by flowing water. These sediments contain pollen, organic matter, and mineral deposits characteristic of a riverine or lacustrine environment, providing direct evidence of the wetter conditions that once existed at the site. Carbon dating of organic material from these sediments could potentially provide direct dates for the period when water was present in the enclosure, though such dating must be interpreted carefully due to the possibility of contamination from more recent organic material. The sediment layers tell a detailed story of environmental change at the site. The lowest layers contain coarse gravels and sands typical of high-energy water flow, suggesting periods when substantial volumes of water flowed through the area. Higher layers contain finer sediments with abundant organic matter, indicating periods when the area supported vegetation and possibly standing water. The uppermost layers consist of wind-blown sand and dust, marking the transition to the current arid climate. The implications of this geological evidence extend far beyond the dating of a single monument. If the Sphinx is indeed far older than conventionally believed, it suggests the existence of a sophisticated civilization in the Nile Valley during the African humid period, a civilization capable of planning and executing massive construction projects with remarkable precision. This would push back the origins of complex society in Egypt by several millennia, requiring a complete revision of our understanding of prehistoric human development. Such a revision would also necessitate a re-examination of other ancient sites throughout the region. The Osirian at Abydos, with its massive granite blocks and unique architectural style, has long puzzled archaeologists who have struggled to fit it into the conventional chronology of Egyptian development. The structure is built from enormous granite blocks, some weighing over 50 tons, fitted together with the same precision seen at the Sphinx temples. The architectural style is unlike any other known Egyptian structure, with massive rectangular blocks arranged in a simple but imposing design that seems to prioritize durability over decoration. The temple complex at Abu Rawash, the mysterious structures at Zoyat El Aryan, and numerous other sites throughout Egypt display architectural and engineering features that seem to exceed the capabilities attributed to their supposed builders. These sites share certain characteristics with the Sphinx complex, including the use of massive stone blocks, precision construction techniques, and architectural styles that differ significantly from conventional Egyptian monuments. If the Sphinx is indeed much older than traditionally believed, these other anomalous sites may also require redating and reinterpretation. The water erosion evidence also raises questions about the relationship between climate change and civilization development. The end of the African humid period coincided with the emergence of pharaonic Egypt, suggesting that the desiccation of the Sahara may have driven populations into the Nile Valley, where they established the foundations of Egyptian civilization. If an earlier civilization existed during the humid period and was responsible for carving the Sphinx, the climate change that ended the humid period may have caused the collapse or migration of this earlier society, leaving behind only their monuments as evidence of their existence. This scenario would explain many of the puzzles surrounding early Egyptian civilization, including the apparent sudden appearance of sophisticated writing, mathematics, astronomy, and engineering capabilities at the beginning of the dynastic period. Rather than representing the birth of civilization, the early dynasties may have represented the revival or continuation of traditions that originated much earlier. During the humid period, when the Sahara was green and the Sphinx was carved, the concept of civilization collapse and renewal due to climate change is not unique to ancient Egypt. Throughout human history, dramatic climate changes have forced societies to adapt, migrate, or disappear entirely. The end of the last ice age, around 12,000 years ago, coincided with the emergence of agriculture and the first permanent settlements in many parts of the world. The medieval warm period and the subsequent Little Ice Age had profound effects on European civilization, causing population migrations, agricultural changes, and social upheavals that shaped the course of history. The geological evidence for the Sphinx's greater age continues to accumulate as new analytical techniques become available. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed additional chambers and voids within and beneath the monument, some of which may contain artifacts or inscriptions that could provide direct evidence of its builders. These hidden chambers have been detected using sophisticated geophysical techniques that can map subsurface structures without excavation. The chambers appear to be natural voids in the limestone that may have been modified or utilized by the monument's builders. Seismic surveys have mapped the subsurface structure of the Giza Plateau, revealing additional evidence of ancient water flow and deposition patterns. These surveys use sound waves to create detailed images of rock layers and structures beneath the surface, providing information about the geological history of the site that cannot be obtained from surface observations alone. The seismic data shows clear evidence of ancient stream channels, sediment deposits, and other features consistent with a much wetter climate in the past. Satellite imagery and aerial photography have revealed the broader context of the Sphinx within the ancient landscape of the Giza Plateau. These images show the remnants of ancient water channels, the patterns of sediment deposition, and the relationship between the Sphinx and other structures on the plateau. When viewed from above, the entire Giza complex reveals a sophisticated understanding of landscape, astronomy, and engineering that speaks to the advanced knowledge of its builders. The satellite images reveal features that are not visible from ground level, including ancient field boundaries, irrigation channels, and settlement patterns that extend far beyond the immediate vicinity of the pyramids and Sphinx. These features suggest that the Giza Plateau was once part of a much larger agricultural and ceremonial landscape, with the monument serving as focal points within a complex system of human activity and environmental management. The transition from the African humid period to the current arid conditions was not simply a matter of decreasing rainfall. The change involved a complete transformation of the ecosystem, from a green savanna supporting diverse wildlife and human populations to a harsh desert capable of supporting only specialized desert-adapted species. This transformation would have had profound effects on any human populations living in the region, forcing them to adapt, migrate, or perish. The ecological collapse that accompanied the end of the humid period would have been catastrophic for any complex societies that had developed during the preceding millennia. Rivers dried up, lakes disappeared, and the vegetation that supported both wildlife and human populations gradually died back and was replaced by desert species. Archaeological sites throughout the Sahara show evidence of abandonment during this period, with the latest occupation layers dating to around 5,000 years ago. Archaeological evidence from sites throughout the Sahara documents this dramatic transition. Rock art sites show a clear progression from images of water-dependent animals and lush vegetation to increasingly arid-adapted species, and finally to the absence of human occupation altogether. The earliest rock art from the humid period depicts elephants, giraffes, crocodiles, and other large mammals that require abundant water and vegetation. Later images show cattle and other domesticated animals, indicating the development of pastoral societies. The latest images show horses and camels, animals better adapted to arid conditions, before the sites were finally abandoned. The latest rock art from many Saharan sites dates to approximately 5,000 years ago, coinciding with the final desiccation of the region. After this date, the archaeological record shows a dramatic decline in human activity across the Sahara, with most areas becoming completely uninhabitable. The few human populations that remained were concentrated around oases and other reliable water sources, living as nomadic pastoralists with lifestyles adapted to the harsh desert environment. In the Nile Valley, this same period saw the emergence of the first pharaonic dynasties and the rapid development of the sophisticated civilization that would dominate the region for the next 3 millennia. The timing of these events suggests a direct connection between climate change and civilization development. With the desiccation of the Sahara driving populations into the Nile Valley, where they established the foundations of pharaonic Egypt. The Nile Valley provided a refuge from the expanding desert, offering reliable water, fertile soil, and protection from the harsh conditions that were making the surrounding regions uninhabitable. The river's annual flood cycle provided a predictable source of irrigation water and fertile silt, making agriculture possible even as the surrounding landscape became increasingly arid. This environmental stability allowed populations to concentrate in permanent settlements and develop the complex social, political, and technological systems that characterized pharaonic civilization. If the Sphinx predates this transition, it represents a monument to a lost world, a green Sahara where rivers flowed and civilizations flourished in landscapes that are now empty desert. The monument would then serve as a bridge between two different worlds, two different climates, and possibly two different civilizations, the earlier one lost to time and climate change, the later one building upon the foundations left by their predecessors. This interpretation transforms the Sphinx from a monument to pharaonic power into something far more profound, a survivor from a lost age that witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations, the transformation of landscapes, and the relentless power of climate change to reshape human history. The weathered limestone of the monument becomes a book written in stone, recording environmental changes that occurred over thousands of years and preserving evidence of human societies that existed long before the beginning of recorded history. The African humid period was not unique to the Sahara, but was part of a global pattern of climate change that affected civilizations worldwide. Similar humid periods occurred in other desert regions, including the Arabian Peninsula, the Thar Desert of India, and parts of Australia. Each of these regions shows evidence of human occupation during their respective humid periods, followed by abandonment as conditions became more arid. In the Arabian Peninsula, archaeological sites dating to the humid period show evidence of sophisticated cultures with advanced stone tool technologies, elaborate burial practices, and extensive trade networks. Rock art sites throughout Arabia depict the same progression from humid period fauna to arid adapted species seen in the Sahara, documenting the environmental changes that forced human populations to adapt or migrate. The timing of these changes closely parallels those seen in North Africa, suggesting that they were part of a coordinated global climate system. This global pattern suggests that the story of the Sphinx may be part of a much larger narrative about climate change and human civilization. The monuments and ruins left behind by these earlier humid period civilizations may represent a lost chapter of human history, a time when the world's current desert regions were green and fertile and supported complex societies that we are only beginning to understand. The implications of this broader perspective extend to our understanding of human resilience and adaptation in the face of climate change. The civilizations that flourished during the humid periods were forced to adapt to dramatic environmental changes, and their responses to these challenges may hold lessons for our own civilization as it faces the prospect of significant climate change in the coming centuries. Some societies successfully adapted to changing conditions by developing new technologies, changing their economic systems, or migrating to more favorable environments. Others failed to adapt and disappeared from the archaeological record, leaving behind only ruins and artifacts as evidence of their existence. The factors that determined success or failure in these ancient climate transitions may provide insights into the strategies that modern societies can use to cope with environmental change. The geological evidence for the Sphinx's greater age also raises important questions about the preservation and interpretation of ancient monuments. If the Sphinx is indeed much older than conventionally believed, then our current conservation efforts may be based on incorrect assumptions about the monument's history and the processes that have shaped its current condition. Understanding the true age and history of the monument is essential for developing effective strategies to preserve it for future generations. Current conservation efforts at the Sphinx focus primarily on protecting the monument from wind erosion, salt crystallization, and structural instability caused by the expansion and contraction of the limestone in response to temperature changes. However, if the monument's primary weathering occurred during an earlier period of water erosion, then different conservation strategies may be needed to address the long-term effects of this earlier weathering process. The water erosion patterns visible on the Sphinx represent a natural archive of past climate conditions, a record written in stone that documents the environmental history of the region over thousands of years. This record is irreplaceable and irreversible, and its preservation is essential not only for understanding the history of the monument, but also for understanding the broader patterns of climate change that have shaped human civilization. The erosion patterns themselves are as much a part of the monument's historical significance as the original carved surfaces. They represent thousands of years of environmental history and provide unique insights into past climate conditions that cannot be obtained from any other source. Protecting these erosion patterns from further degradation while also preserving the structural integrity of the monument presents complex challenges that require careful balance between conservation and research objectives. As we continue to study the geological evidence surrounding the Great Sphinx, new questions emerge that challenge our fundamental assumptions about the past. The monument stands as a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance, but it also serves as a reminder of the profound changes that can occur over geological time scales. The civilization that carved this monument lived in a world very different from our own, a world where the Sahara was green and rivers flowed where now there is only sand. The story written in the weathered limestone of the Sphinx is a story of water and time, of civilizations that rose and fell with the changing climate, and of monuments that outlasted the societies that created them. It is a story that forces us to reconsider our place in the long arc of human history, and to recognize that our current civilization is but one chapter in a much longer and more complex narrative that stretches back far beyond the beginning of recorded history. Understanding this story requires us to look beyond the conventional boundaries of archaeological and historical study, to integrate insights from geology, climatology, astronomy, and other disciplines that can shed light on the deep past. The Sphinx stands at the intersection of all these fields of study, a monument that embodies the complexity and mystery of human civilization and its relationship with the natural world. The interdisciplinary approach required to understand the Sphinx's true history reflects a broader trend in archaeological and historical research toward more integrated methodologies that combine traditional humanistic approaches with scientific techniques from the natural sciences. This integration is essential for addressing complex questions about the past that cannot be answered by any single discipline working in isolation. The water that once flowed across the Giza plateau and carved the erosion patterns visible on the Sphinx today was part of a vast hydrological system that connected the monument to the broader patterns of climate and environmental change that shaped the ancient world. Understanding these connections is essential for understanding the true significance of the Sphinx and its place in the broader narrative of human civilization. The ancient hydrological system that shaped the Giza plateau was part of a much larger network of rivers, lakes, and wetlands that extended across the entire Sahara region during the humid period. This network supported diverse ecosystems and human populations across thousands of square kilometers of what is now empty desert. The Sphinx, positioned at a key node in this hydrological network, may have held special significance for the people who carved it, serving not just as a monument, but as a marker or guardian of important water resources. As we delve deeper into this investigation, we must also consider the human dimension of these ancient climate changes. The African humid period was not just a time of different weather patterns, but a time when human societies across the Sahara region developed complex cultures, sophisticated technologies, and remarkable artistic traditions. The rock art sites scattered throughout the Sahara provide glimpses of these lost civilizations, showing scenes of daily life, religious ceremonies, and interactions with the diverse wildlife that once populated the region. These Saharan cultures were not primitive hunter-gatherers, but sophisticated societies with complex social structures, advanced knowledge of astronomy and mathematics, and remarkable artistic achievements. The rock art sites show evidence of cattle domestication, complex religious beliefs, and long-distance trade networks that connected communities across vast distances. Some sites show evidence of early writing systems and astronomical observations that rival those of later civilizations. The cattle depicted in Saharan rock art were not wild animals, but domesticated herds that formed the basis of pastoral economies across the region. The management of these herds required sophisticated knowledge of animal behavior, seasonal migration patterns, and environmental conditions. The rock art shows scenes of cattle being herded, milked, and used in religious ceremonies, indicating that these animals played central roles in both the economic and spiritual lives of Saharan peoples. The relationship between these Saharan cultures and the early development of Egyptian civilization remains a subject of intense debate and research. Many scholars now believe that the desiccation of the Sahara led to large-scale migrations into the Nile Valley, bringing with them the knowledge, skills, and cultural traditions that would form the foundation of pharaonic Egypt. This would explain the apparent sudden appearance of sophisticated civilization in Egypt at the beginning of the dynastic period. The migration hypothesis is supported by linguistic, genetic, and cultural evidence that shows connections between Saharan populations and early Egyptian societies. Many of the gods and religious symbols that became central to Egyptian civilization have parallels in Saharan rock art, suggesting cultural continuities that span the transition from the humid to the arid period. Genetic studies of modern Egyptian populations show evidence of ancestry from both Saharan and Nile Valley sources, consistent with large-scale population movements during the desiccation period. If the Sphinx was carved during this earlier period by these Saharan cultures, it would represent one of the most remarkable achievements of prehistoric African civilization. The monument would then serve as a direct link between the lost civilizations of the Green Sahara and the pharaonic civilization that emerged in the Nile Valley after the onset of arid conditions. This interpretation would also help explain some of the unique features of the Sphinx that have long puzzled researchers. The monument's orientation, facing due east toward the rising sun, reflects a sophisticated understanding of astronomy and solar observations. The precise carving techniques used to shape the monument from the living rock demonstrate advanced knowledge of stone working and engineering. The integration of the monument with the surrounding landscape shows a deep understanding of the relationship between human construction and natural environment. The astronomical orientation of the Sphinx provides additional evidence for its great age. The monument faces due east, toward the point where the sun rises at the equinoxes. This orientation has remained constant throughout recorded history, but the constellation that appeared on the eastern horizon at sunrise during the equinoxes has changed due to the precession of the equinoxes, a slow wobble in Earth's axis that causes the apparent position of the stars to shift over long periods. The precession cycle takes approximately 26,000 years to complete, during which time the apparent position of the stars shifts gradually around the sky. This means that the constellation visible on the eastern horizon at sunrise during the equinoxes changes over time, providing a kind of astronomical clock that can be used to date ancient monuments that were aligned with specific stellar positions. During the conventional dating of the Sphinx around 4,500 years ago, the constellation Taurus the Bull would have been visible on the eastern horizon at sunrise during the equinoxes. However, if the Sphinx was carved much earlier, during the African humid period, the constellation Leo the Lion would have been in this position. Given that the Sphinx has the body of a lion, this astronomical alignment suggests that the monument may have been carved during the age of Leo, approximately 10,000 to 12,000 years ago. This astronomical evidence, combined with the geological evidence for water erosion, creates a compelling case for the great antiquity of the Sphinx. The monument appears to encode astronomical knowledge that reflects the sky conditions at the time of its carving, providing an independent line of evidence for its age that corroborates the geological findings. The astronomical alignment also suggests that the builders of the Sphinx possessed sophisticated knowledge of celestial mechanics and long-term astronomical cycles. The ability to predict and plan for astronomical alignments that would remain significant over thousands of years indicates a level of mathematical and observational sophistication that rivals that of later civilizations. This knowledge may have been developed over many generations of careful observation and record-keeping, suggesting the existence of stable, long-lived societies during the African humid period. The implications of this evidence extend far beyond the dating of a single monument to encompass our entire understanding of prehistoric human achievement. If sophisticated civilizations existed in Africa during the African humid period and were capable of creating monuments like the Sphinx, then the story of human civilization is far older and more complex than we have traditionally believed. This older, more complex story of civilization would help explain many of the puzzles and anomalies that have long challenged archaeologists and historians. The apparent sudden appearance of sophisticated technologies and cultural achievements at the beginning of recorded history in various parts of the world may not represent the birth of civilization, but rather the revival or continuation of much older traditions that originated during earlier climatic periods. The global distribution of megalithic monuments, sophisticated astronomical alignments, and advanced engineering techniques in prehistoric sites around the world suggests that human technological and cultural development may have followed a more complex trajectory than the simple linear progression from primitive to advanced that is often assumed. The Sphinx may be one example of a much larger pattern of prehistoric achievement that has been obscured by subsequent climate changes and cultural disruptions. The story of the Sphinx and the African humid period is ultimately a story about the relationship between human civilization and environmental change. The monument stands as a testament to human ingenuity and achievement, but it also serves as a reminder of the vulnerability of human societies to dramatic climate change. The civilization that carved the Sphinx flourished during a time of favorable climate conditions, but when those conditions changed, the civilization was forced to adapt, migrate, or disappear. This lesson from the deep past has particular relevance for our own time, as human civilization faces the prospect of significant climate change in the coming decades and centuries. The story of the Sphinx and the lost civilizations of the Green Sahara reminds us that climate change has been a constant factor in human history and that successful adaptation to changing environmental conditions has always required flexibility, innovation, and cooperation. The archaeological record shows that some ancient societies were remarkably successful at adapting to climate change, developing new technologies, changing their settlement patterns, or modifying their economic systems to cope with changing environmental conditions. Others were less successful, experiencing population decline, social collapse, or complete abandonment of their territories. Understanding the factors that determine success or failure in these ancient examples may provide valuable insights for modern societies facing similar challenges. As we continue to investigate the mysteries of the Great Sphinx and its relationship to the African humid period, we are not just uncovering the secrets of the past, but also gaining insights that may help us navigate the challenges of the future. The monument stands as a bridge between past and present, between the lost world of the Green Sahara and our modern understanding of climate change and human adaptation. The geological evidence embedded in the weathered limestone of the Sphinx tells a story that spans thousands of years and connects us to civilizations and climate conditions that existed long before recorded history. This story challenges our assumptions about the past and forces us to reconsider the timeline and complexity of human achievement. But most importantly, it reminds us that human civilization has always been shaped by its relationship with the natural world, and that understanding this relationship is essential for understanding ourselves and our place in the long arc of human history. The Great Sphinx continues to guard its secrets, weathered by time and climate, but still standing as a testament to human achievement and environmental change. As new technologies and analytical techniques become available, we may finally be able to unlock the full story of this ancient monument and the lost civilization that created it. Until then, the Sphinx remains what it has always been, a mystery carved in stone, a riddle that challenges us to expand our understanding of the past and our place in the ongoing story of human civilization on Earth. The mysteries surrounding the Great Sphinx extend far beyond the weathered limestone of the Giza Plateau, connecting to a global network of ancient megalithic sites that challenge our understanding of prehistoric human capabilities and knowledge transmission. As we explore these connections, we begin to see patterns that suggest a sophisticated understanding of engineering, astronomy, and sacred geometry that transcended individual cultures and geographic boundaries. These patterns emerge not as isolated achievements, but as part of a coherent system of knowledge that appears to have been shared across vast distances and preserved through millennia. When we examine megalithic sites around the world, from Stonehenge in England to Puma Punku in Bolivia, from the temples of Malta to the stone circles of Turkey, we find remarkable similarities in construction techniques, astronomical alignments, and symbolic representations. These similarities are so striking that they cannot be easily dismissed as coincidental convergent evolution of human culture. Instead, they suggest either direct contact between ancient civilizations separated by vast distances or inheritance from a common source of advanced knowledge that predates our current understanding of human technological development. The consistency of these patterns across continents and cultures points to a shared intellectual tradition that somehow survived the transitions between different civilizations and time periods. Consider the precision required to construct these ancient monuments. At Puma Punku in Bolivia, stone blocks weighing up to 150 tons were cut and fitted together with tolerances measured in fractions of millimeters. The surfaces are so smooth and the joints so precise that not even a razor blade can be inserted between them. The stones were cut at complex angles and fitted together in three-dimensional puzzles that would challenge modern engineering capabilities. Yet, according to conventional archaeology, these monuments were constructed by civilizations that supposedly lacked advanced tools, mathematical knowledge, or engineering expertise. The precision achieved at Puma Punku exceeds that found in many modern construction projects, despite the supposed absence of sophisticated measuring instruments or cutting tools. The same precision is evident at sites around the world. The Trilithons at Stonehenge, massive stone structures consisting of two vertical stones topped by a horizontal lintel, were positioned with extraordinary accuracy to align with celestial events. The builders somehow managed to transport stones weighing up to 50 tons from quarries located more than 150 miles away, then erected them with a precision that allows for accurate astronomical observations thousands of years later. The mathematical and engineering knowledge required for such achievements suggests capabilities far beyond what we typically attribute to Neolithic peoples. The logistics alone of organizing the workforce, planning the transportation routes, and coordinating the construction phases would have required sophisticated project management skills that rival those of modern engineering firms. In Egypt, the precision of the Great Pyramid continues to astound researchers. The base of the pyramid is level to within just 2.1 centimeters, an achievement that would be impressive even with modern laser-guided equipment. The orientation is accurate to within 3/60ths of a degree, and the ratio of the pyramid's perimeter to its height equals pi to several decimal places. These are not the achievements of a civilization struggling with basic mathematical concepts, but of one with sophisticated understanding of geometry, astronomy, and engineering principles. The internal passages and chambers of the pyramid demonstrate equally impressive precision, with angles and proportions that reflect advanced mathematical relationships and structural engineering principles. The megalithic temples of Malta present another fascinating case study in ancient precision and knowledge. These structures, which predate Stonehenge and the Egyptian pyramids by more than 1,000 years, demonstrate advanced understanding of acoustics, astronomy, and architectural principles. The temples were designed to amplify sound at specific frequencies, creating acoustic effects that may have been used for ritual or ceremonial purposes. The builders also incorporated precise astronomical alignments, with doorways and windows positioned to frame the rising and setting of specific stars and planets at particular times of the year. The sophisticated understanding of both sound engineering and celestial mechanics evident in these early structures suggests that advanced knowledge existed much earlier than previously recognized. What makes these achievements even more remarkable is the apparent lack of a developmental sequence in many cases. The earliest megalithic structures often display the highest levels of precision and sophistication, with later constructions showing declining technical capabilities. This pattern is the opposite of what we would expect from a gradually developing technology. Instead, it suggests that the knowledge required for these constructions was inherited from an earlier source, rather than developed through trial and error over generations. The implications of this pattern are profound, as they suggest that human technological capability may have peaked much earlier than conventional history acknowledges, then gradually declined as knowledge was lost or diluted over time. The transportation and positioning of massive stone blocks presents another puzzle that connects sites around the world. At Easter Island, Moai statues weighing up to 80 tons were somehow transported across the island and erected in precise positions. Local legends speak of the statues walking to their destinations, a description that may preserve memories of an unknown transportation technique. Similar mysteries surround the movement of massive stones at sites like Baalbek in Lebanon, where blocks weighing over 800 tons were quarried, transported, and precisely positioned in temple foundations. The engineering challenges involved in moving such massive weights would be formidable, even with modern equipment. Yet ancient builders accomplished these feats using methods that remain completely mysterious. The quarrying techniques used at these sites also demonstrate capabilities that seem inconsistent with the tools supposedly available to ancient builders. Many megalithic blocks show evidence of having been cut with tools that produced smooth, precise surfaces and complex geometric shapes. Some stones appear to have been cut while still in the quarry, then transported as finished architectural elements. This suggests not only advanced cutting tools, but also sophisticated planning and measurement systems that allowed builders to create precisely fitted components at remote locations. The precision of these cuts often exceeds what can be achieved with conventional stone working tools, suggesting the use of unknown technologies or techniques. The acoustic properties of many megalithic sites provide another layer of mystery and connection. Researchers have discovered that many ancient stone circles and temple complexes were designed to enhance or modify sound in specific ways. At Newgrange in Ireland, the chamber produces a resonant frequency that can induce altered states of consciousness. Similar acoustic effects have been documented at sites around the world, suggesting that ancient builders possessed sophisticated understanding of sound engineering and its effects on human consciousness. The mathematical precision required to achieve specific acoustic effects through architectural design indicates knowledge of wave propagation, resonance, and the relationship between physical structures and sound frequencies. The astronomical alignments found at megalithic sites worldwide reveal another dimension of ancient knowledge that connects diverse cultures across vast distances. These alignments are not simple observations of sunrise or sunset, but complex calculations involving the precession of the equinoxes, the movements of planets, and the cycles of various celestial bodies. The precision required for such alignments demands not only accurate observation over long periods, but also mathematical capabilities for predicting future celestial events. The consistency of astronomical knowledge across different sites suggests either widespread communication between ancient cultures or inheritance from a common source of celestial observations and calculations. At Angkor Wat in Cambodia, the temple complex is aligned to mirror the constellation Draco as it appeared in 10,500 BCE, thousands of years before the temple was actually constructed. This suggests that the builders had access to astronomical knowledge that extended far back in time, possibly preserved from much earlier observations. Similar anachronistic astronomical alignments have been found at sites around the world, indicating that ancient builders were working from star maps and celestial calculations that originated in a much earlier period. The ability to project stellar positions thousands of years into the past or future requires sophisticated understanding of precession and other long-term celestial cycles. The global distribution of these sophisticated megalithic sites raises fundamental questions about the nature of ancient civilizations and their capabilities. If these monuments were built by isolated cultures with limited technological capabilities, how do we explain the remarkable similarities in construction techniques, astronomical knowledge, and symbolic systems? The conventional explanation of independent invention becomes increasingly strained when we consider the complexity and precision of these achievements. The mathematical probability of multiple cultures independently developing identical sophisticated techniques approaches zero, suggesting that some form of knowledge transmission or common source must have been involved. One possibility is that these sites represent the remnants of a global maritime civilization that possessed advanced knowledge of navigation, astronomy, and engineering. Such a civilization would have been capable of establishing contact between distant regions and transmitting knowledge across vast distances. The end of the last ice age, with its dramatic sea level changes and climate disruptions, could have destroyed most traces of such a civilization, leaving only the most durable stone monuments as evidence of their achievements. The sophisticated navigation skills required for global maritime contact would naturally have led to advanced astronomical knowledge, as celestial navigation depends on precise understanding of stellar movements and celestial mechanics. Another possibility is that these sites represent the inheritance of knowledge from an even earlier source, possibly connected to the lost civilization that may have built the Great Sphinx during the African humid period. This knowledge could have been preserved and transmitted through various means, including oral traditions, symbolic systems, and the monuments themselves, which may have served as repositories of encoded information. The precision with which mathematical and astronomical relationships are encoded in megalithic architecture suggests that these structures were designed to preserve specific information for future generations, functioning as three-dimensional libraries or databases. The symbolic systems found at megalithic sites worldwide show remarkable consistency in their use of geometric patterns, astronomical symbols, and mathematical relationships. The spiral, for example, appears in megalithic art from Ireland to Malta to Easter Island, often in contexts that suggest astronomical or mathematical significance. The same geometric ratios, particularly the golden ratio and pi, appear in the proportions of monuments separated by thousands of miles and supposedly thousands of years. This consistency suggests that ancient builders were working from a common symbolic vocabulary that encoded sophisticated mathematical and astronomical knowledge. These patterns suggest that ancient builders were working from a common symbolic vocabulary that encoded sophisticated mathematical and astronomical knowledge. This vocabulary may have served as a means of preserving and transmitting technical information across generations and cultures. The monuments themselves may have functioned as three-dimensional textbooks, encoding information about engineering techniques, astronomical observations, and mathematical principles in their structure and proportions. The durability of stone construction would have ensured that this information could survive environmental catastrophes, cultural disruptions, and the passage of millennia. The precision of astronomical alignments at these sites also suggests the existence of a global coordinate system that allowed ancient builders to position monuments according to a unified plan. Some researchers have proposed that major megalithic sites are positioned according to mathematical relationships based on the Earth's dimensions and the precession of the equinoxes. If true, this would indicate a level of global coordination and mathematical sophistication that far exceeds conventional estimates of ancient capabilities. The ability to establish precise geographic coordinates and maintain consistent measurements across vast distances would have required not only advanced mathematical knowledge, but also sophisticated surveying and navigation techniques. The construction techniques used at megalithic sites also show remarkable consistency across different cultures and time periods. The use of polygonal masonry, where irregularly shaped stones are fitted together without mortar, appears at sites from Peru to Greece to Easter Island. The precision of these joints and the methods used to achieve such tight fits remain mysterious, as conventional tools and techniques cannot easily reproduce these results. The consistency of this technique across different continents suggests either direct knowledge transmission or inheritance from a common source of construction expertise. Similarly, the methods used to quarry, transport, and position massive stone blocks show consistent features across different sites. Many megalithic blocks show evidence of having been quarried using techniques that produced smooth, precise cuts without the tool marks typically associated with bronze or iron implements. The transportation methods, while still mysterious, appear to have been capable of moving blocks weighing hundreds of tons across difficult terrain with minimal damage. The positioning of these blocks often required lifting them to considerable heights and placing them with millimeter precision. At Sacsayhuaman in Peru, blocks weighing over 100 tons were lifted and positioned 20 feet above ground level, then fitted together so precisely that the joints remained tight after centuries of earthquakes. The methods used to achieve such precision positioning remain unknown, as conventional lifting techniques would not provide the level of control required. The earthquake resistance of these structures also suggests sophisticated understanding of structural engineering principles and the dynamic forces that affect large stone constructions. The global distribution of these capabilities suggests either widespread diffusion of advanced knowledge or inheritance from a common source. The similarities in technique are so specific and the precision so consistent that independent invention seems highly unlikely. Instead, the evidence points toward a shared technological tradition that was capable of achievements that we struggle to understand or replicate even today. The preservation of these techniques across different cultures and time periods also suggests the existence of educational systems or knowledge transmission methods that could maintain technical precision across generations. The dating of many megalithic sites also presents challenges to conventional chronology. While some sites can be dated through associated organic materials, the stone structures themselves are often much more difficult to date directly. Many sites show evidence of multiple construction phases, with the earliest and most sophisticated work often being the most difficult to date. This pattern suggests that the most advanced construction techniques may be older than currently recognized. The possibility that some megalithic sites are significantly older than conventionally believed would have profound implications for our understanding of human technological development. At Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, massive stone pillars arranged in complex patterns have been dated to approximately 11,000 years ago, making them older than Stonehenge by more than 6,000 years. The sophistication of the carving and the complexity of the site's layout challenge assumptions about the capabilities of hunter-gatherer societies. The site appears to have required the coordinated effort of hundreds of workers over extended periods, suggesting social organization and resource management capabilities not typically associated with pre-agricultural societies. The artistic sophistication of the carved reliefs and the precision of the stone work indicate cultural and technical achievements that predate the supposed development of complex civilization by thousands of years. The implications of these discoveries extend far beyond archaeology into our understanding of human development and the nature of civilization itself. If ancient peoples possessed sophisticated knowledge of engineering, astronomy, and mathematics thousands of years earlier than previously thought, we must reconsider our assumptions about the linear progress of human knowledge and technology. The possibility that advanced civilizations existed in prehistoric times and were subsequently lost raises important questions about the cyclical nature of human development and the factors that contribute to the rise and fall of complex societies. The possibility that advanced knowledge existed in prehistoric times and was subsequently lost raises important questions about the fragility of civilization and the preservation of knowledge. If sophisticated civilizations existed in the past and were destroyed by natural catastrophes or other factors, what does this tell us about the sustainability of our own technological civilization? The apparent decline in construction capabilities at many megalithic sites over time suggests that advanced knowledge can be lost even when it has been successfully transmitted across generations, highlighting the importance of robust knowledge preservation systems. The astronomical knowledge encoded in megalithic sites provides another dimension of ancient sophistication that connects to modern scientific understanding. Many sites incorporate precise observations of celestial mechanics that were not rediscovered by European astronomy until the Renaissance or later. The builders of these monuments understood the precession of the equinoxes, the complex movements of planets, and the long-term cycles of celestial bodies. This knowledge would have required centuries or millennia of careful observation and mathematical analysis to develop, suggesting the existence of sophisticated astronomical traditions that far predate recorded history. At Nada Playa in the Egyptian desert, a stone circle dating to approximately 7,000 years ago incorporates alignments that track the precession of the equinoxes over thousands of years. The precision of these alignments and the mathematical knowledge required to calculate them suggest astronomical capabilities that rival those of modern observatories. The site may have served as an ancient astronomical computer, allowing its builders to predict celestial events far into the future. The mathematical sophistication required to account for precession and other long-term celestial cycles indicates knowledge of spherical trigonometry and advanced geometric principles. The mathematical knowledge demonstrated at megalithic sites also challenges conventional understanding of ancient capabilities. The incorporation of pi, the golden ratio, and other mathematical constants in monument proportions suggests sophisticated understanding of geometric principles. The ability to apply these principles to massive construction projects indicates not only theoretical knowledge, but also practical engineering capabilities. The precision with which these mathematical relationships are implemented suggests the use of standardized measurement systems and computational techniques that could ensure accuracy across large construction projects. The sacred geometry found at these sites may represent more than aesthetic or symbolic choices. The mathematical relationships encoded in monument proportions may have served practical purposes related to structural stability, acoustic properties, or astronomical functions. The consistency of these proportions across different sites and cultures suggests that they represent a preserved body of technical knowledge rather than independent aesthetic developments. The integration of multiple mathematical functions into single structures demonstrates systems thinking that approaches modern engineering in its sophistication and complexity. The acoustic properties of megalithic sites provide another connection between ancient knowledge and modern scientific understanding. The specific frequencies enhanced by stone circles and temple chambers often correspond to brainwave patterns associated with altered states of consciousness. This suggests that ancient builders possessed sophisticated understanding of the relationship between sound, architecture, and human consciousness. The mathematical precision required to achieve specific acoustic effects through architectural design indicates knowledge of wave mechanics, resonance theory, and the physics of sound propagation. The precision of acoustic engineering at sites like the Whispering Gallery at St. Paul's Cathedral in London or the echo chambers at Chichen Itza in Mexico demonstrates mathematical understanding of wave propagation and reflection. These effects could not have been achieved through trial and error, but required theoretical knowledge of acoustics and careful mathematical calculation of chamber dimensions and surface angles. The ability to predict and control acoustic effects through architectural design represents a sophisticated integration of physics, mathematics, and engineering that rivals modern acoustic engineering capabilities. The global nature of these acoustic phenomena suggests that the knowledge required to create them was widely distributed among ancient builders. The consistency of specific frequency enhancements across different sites indicates a shared understanding of the relationship between architecture and sound that may have been preserved from an earlier tradition. The integration of acoustic properties with astronomical alignments and mathematical proportions in many megalithic sites suggests a holistic approach to knowledge that viewed these different aspects as interconnected parts of a unified system. As we examine the astronomical alignments found at megalithic sites around the world, we discover a level of precision and sophistication that reveals ancient civilizations possessed knowledge rivaling that of modern astronomy. These alignments are not simple observations of obvious celestial events like solstices or equinoxes, but complex calculations involving the subtle movements of stars, planets, and other celestial bodies over vast periods of time. The mathematical sophistication required to predict celestial positions thousands of years in advance or to reconstruct stellar configurations from the distant past indicates computational capabilities that were not officially rediscovered until the development of modern astronomy and computer modeling. The temple complex at Angkor Wat in Cambodia provides one of the most striking examples of this sophisticated astronomical knowledge. The entire complex is designed as a terrestrial map of the cosmos, with its layout precisely mirroring the constellation Draco as it appeared in the sky around 10,500 BCE. This date is remarkable because it predates the actual construction of Angkor Wat by thousands of years, suggesting that the builders were working from astronomical observations or calculations that originated in a much earlier period. The precision of this alignment requires not only knowledge of precession, but also the ability to calculate stellar positions across millennia. The precision of this alignment is extraordinary. The main temple towers correspond exactly to the principal stars of Draco, and the causeway leading to the temple aligns with the constellation's orientation at the specified date. The mathematical knowledge required to project the position of stars thousands of years into the past or future demonstrates capabilities that were not officially rediscovered until the development of modern astronomy and computer modeling. The builders somehow understood that stellar positions change over time due to precession and possessed the mathematical tools to calculate these changes with remarkable accuracy. Similar examples of advanced astronomical knowledge can be found at sites around the world. At Stonehenge, the monument incorporates alignments not only to obvious solar and lunar events, but also to the subtle 18.6-year cycle of lunar standstills and the much longer 26,000-year cycle of precession. The builders somehow understood that the Earth's axis wobbles like a spinning top, causing the apparent positions of stars to shift slowly over millennia. This knowledge would have required centuries of careful observation and mathematical analysis to develop, suggesting the existence of astronomical traditions that spanned many generations. The Goseck Circle in Germany, dating to approximately 7,000 years ago, demonstrates equally sophisticated astronomical knowledge. The circular enclosure incorporates precise alignments to the winter solstice sunrise and sunset, but also includes more complex alignments to specific stars and planetary positions. The mathematical accuracy of these alignments suggests that the builders possessed not only observational skills, but also theoretical understanding of celestial mechanics. The integration of multiple astronomical functions into a single structure demonstrates systems thinking that rivals modern observatory design. At Nada Playa in the Egyptian desert, archaeologists have discovered what may be the world's oldest astronomical observatory. The stone circle, dating to around 7,000 years ago, incorporates alignments that track the precession of the equinoxes over thousands of years. The site includes a calendar circle that accurately marks the summer solstice and incorporates sight lines to specific stars that were important to ancient Egyptian cosmology. The mathematical sophistication required to track precession over such long periods indicates knowledge of spherical astronomy and advanced geometric principles. The complexity of the Nada Playa site suggests that its builders possessed mathematical and astronomical knowledge that was later incorporated into Egyptian civilization. The alignments to specific stars, particularly Sirius and the stars of Orion's belt, parallel the astronomical orientations found in later Egyptian pyramids and temples. This continuity suggests a preservation of knowledge over thousands of years and provides another link between the sophisticated astronomy of megalithic sites and later historical civilizations. The transmission of such precise astronomical knowledge across millennia would have required sophisticated educational systems and knowledge preservation methods. The astronomical alignments at these sites often incorporate multiple celestial events simultaneously, creating complex three-dimensional relationships between earthbound monuments and celestial movements. At Newgrange in Ireland, the passage tomb is aligned so that sunlight penetrates the chamber only during the winter solstice, but the monument also incorporates alignments to specific stars and lunar events. The builders somehow managed to create a structure that serves multiple astronomical functions while maintaining architectural integrity and symbolic meaning. The mathematical precision required for such multi-functional alignments is staggering. The builders needed to account for the different rates of movement of the sun, moon, planets, and stars, as well as the long-term effects of precession and other celestial cycles. They also had to translate these calculations into precise architectural specifications that could be implemented using the construction techniques available to them. The ability to integrate multiple astronomical functions into single structures while maintaining precision across all alignments demonstrates computational capabilities that approach those of modern astronomical software. The global distribution of such sophisticated astronomical knowledge raises fundamental questions about how this information was acquired, preserved, and transmitted across different cultures and vast distances. The conventional explanation that each culture independently developed these capabilities becomes increasingly implausible when we consider the precision and complexity of the knowledge involved. The mathematical probability of multiple cultures independently developing identical sophisticated astronomical techniques is effectively zero, suggesting that knowledge transmission or common inheritance must have occurred. One possibility is that these alignments represent the inheritance of knowledge from a global maritime civilization that possessed advanced understanding of navigation and astronomy. Such a civilization would have required precise knowledge of celestial movements for ocean navigation and would have had the capability to establish contact between distant regions. The monuments they left behind may have served as permanent markers, encoding their astronomical knowledge for future generations. The sophisticated navigation skills required for global maritime contact would naturally have led to advanced astronomical knowledge, as celestial navigation depends on precise understanding of stellar movements and celestial mechanics. Another possibility is that the knowledge represents observations accumulated over much longer periods than conventionally assumed. If sophisticated astronomical observations began during the African humid period or even earlier, thousands of years of accumulated data could have provided the basis for the complex calculations evident in megalithic alignments. This knowledge could then have been preserved through oral traditions, symbolic systems, or the monuments themselves. The durability of stone construction would have ensured that astronomical alignments could preserve celestial information across millennia, serving as permanent astronomical records. The preservation of astronomical knowledge through symbolic systems appears to have been a common practice among ancient cultures. Many megalithic sites incorporate complex geometric patterns and symbolic representations that may encode astronomical information. The spirals carved at Newgrange, for example, may represent the precession of the equinoxes or other long-term celestial cycles. Similar symbols appear at sites around the world, suggesting a shared symbolic vocabulary for preserving and transmitting astronomical knowledge. The consistency of these symbols across different cultures and time periods indicates either direct knowledge transmission or inheritance from a common source. The mathematical relationships found in megalithic architecture also appear to encode astronomical information. The proportions of many monuments incorporate mathematical constants like pi and the golden ratio, but they also reflect astronomical relationships such as the ratios between planetary orbital periods or the mathematical relationships underlying celestial mechanics. These encoded relationships may have served as a means of preserving precise numerical data in permanent architectural form. The ability to encode multiple types of information simultaneously in architectural proportions demonstrates sophisticated understanding of both mathematics and information theory. The acoustic properties of many megalithic sites may also be related to their astronomical functions. Some researchers have suggested that the specific frequencies enhanced by stone circles and chamber tombs correspond to mathematical relationships found in planetary orbits and other celestial phenomena. If true, this would suggest that ancient builders understood connections between sound, mathematics, and astronomy that are only beginning to be explored by modern science. The integration of acoustic, mathematical, and astronomical functions into single structures would represent a holistic approach to knowledge that viewed these different aspects as interconnected parts of a unified cosmic system. The precision of megalithic astronomical alignments also demonstrates sophisticated understanding of the relationship between earthbound observation points and celestial movements. The builders understood that small changes in the position or orientation of observation points could significantly affect the accuracy of astronomical measurements. The care with which monuments were positioned and oriented suggests mathematical understanding of spherical trigonometry and other advanced geometric principles. The ability to establish precise geographic coordinates and maintain consistent orientations across large construction sites would have required sophisticated surveying techniques and standardized measurement systems. The long-term accuracy of megalithic alignments provides another indication of the sophistication of ancient astronomical knowledge. Many sites maintain their astronomical functions thousands of years after construction, despite the effects of precession and other long-term celestial changes. This accuracy could only have been achieved if the builders understood and compensated for these long-term effects in their original calculations. The ability to predict celestial positions thousands of years in advance requires not only observational data, but also theoretical understanding of the physical processes that govern celestial mechanics. The integration of multiple astronomical functions into single monuments demonstrates systems thinking that rivals modern engineering approaches. The builders somehow managed to create structures that simultaneously serve as solar calendars, lunar observatories, stellar computers, and architectural masterpieces. This integration required not only technical knowledge, but also sophisticated project management and coordination capabilities. The ability to balance multiple functional requirements while maintaining precision across all systems represents an engineering achievement that would be challenging even with modern computational tools. The mathematical principles underlying megalithic sacred geometry reveal another dimension of ancient knowledge that connects earthbound architecture to cosmic principles. The geometric relationships found in these monuments are not arbitrary aesthetic choices, but precise mathematical expressions that may encode fundamental properties of the universe itself. The consistency of these mathematical relationships across different sites and cultures suggests that ancient builders were working from a shared understanding of cosmic principles that connected mathematics, geometry, and astronomy in a unified system. The golden ratio, approximately 1.618, appears repeatedly in megalithic architecture around the world. This mathematical constant, which describes proportional relationships found throughout nature, from the spiral of seashells to the structure of galaxies, was incorporated into monument designs with remarkable precision. At the Parthenon in Greece, the golden ratio governs the proportions of the entire structure, creating harmonious relationships between all architectural elements. The mathematical sophistication required to implement the golden ratio in large-scale construction projects indicates not only theoretical knowledge, but also practical techniques for translating mathematical concepts into physical dimensions. The appearance of the golden ratio in megalithic architecture suggests that ancient builders understood mathematical principles that describe natural growth patterns and cosmic structures. The ratio appears in the proportions of the Great Pyramid, the layout of Stonehenge, and the design of temples from Malta to Cambodia. This consistency across different cultures and time periods indicates either widespread diffusion of mathematical knowledge or inheritance from a common source. The precision with which the golden ratio is implemented in these structures suggests the use of sophisticated measurement systems and computational techniques that could ensure accuracy across large construction projects. Pi, the mathematical constant describing the relationship between a circle's circumference and diameter, also appears frequently in megalithic architecture. The Great Pyramid incorporates pi in the ratio of its perimeter to its height, achieving accuracy to several decimal places. Similar precision appears in stone circles around the world, where the relationships between diameter, circumference, and other measurements reflect sophisticated understanding of circular geometry. The ability to calculate and implement pi to high precision in large-scale construction projects indicates mathematical capabilities that were not officially recognized until much later in recorded history. The incorporation of pi in megalithic architecture is particularly significant because this mathematical constant was not officially calculated to high precision until much later in human history. The appearance of accurate pi relationships in prehistoric monuments suggests that ancient builders possessed mathematical capabilities that exceeded those officially recognized for their time period. The precision with which pi is implemented in these structures also suggests the use of standardized measurement systems and computational techniques that could maintain accuracy across large construction projects. Other mathematical constants and relationships appear throughout megalithic architecture, including the square root of 2, the square root of 3, and various harmonic ratios. These relationships often appear simultaneously in single monuments, creating complex mathematical harmonies that connect different aspects of the structure. The precision with which these relationships are implemented suggests not only theoretical mathematical knowledge, but also practical techniques for translating mathematical concepts into physical construction. The ability to integrate multiple mathematical functions into single structures while maintaining precision across all relationships demonstrates computational capabilities that approach those of modern engineering software. The geometric patterns found in megalithic art and architecture also encode mathematical relationships that may preserve numerical information. The spirals, circles, triangles, and other shapes carved into stone monuments often incorporate precise proportional relationships that reflect mathematical constants or astronomical measurements. These patterns may have served as a form of mathematical notation, preserving numerical data in permanent symbolic form. The consistency of these patterns across different sites and cultures suggests a shared mathematical vocabulary that could preserve and transmit numerical information across generations. The three-dimensional geometry of megalithic sites demonstrates understanding of spatial relationships and solid geometry that rivals modern architectural capabilities. The complex interlocking of stones at sites like Sacsayhuaman in Peru or the precise positioning of trilithons at Stonehenge required sophisticated understanding of structural engineering and three-dimensional mathematics. The ability to visualize and implement complex three-dimensional relationships in large-scale construction projects indicates spatial reasoning capabilities that approach those of modern computer-aided design systems. The integration of sacred geometry into megalithic architecture may also reflect understanding of harmonic relationships between mathematics, music, and cosmic principles. Many ancient cultures believed that mathematical ratios underlying musical harmony also governed celestial movements and natural processes. The incorporation of these ratios into architectural proportions may have been intended to create structures that resonated with fundamental cosmic principles. The mathematical relationships found in megalithic architecture often correspond to harmonic ratios used in music, suggesting that ancient builders understood connections between mathematics, sound, and cosmic order. The acoustic properties of megalithic sites often reflect the same mathematical relationships found in their geometric proportions. The frequencies enhanced by stone circles and chamber tombs frequently correspond to harmonic ratios based on mathematical constants like pi and the golden ratio. This suggests that ancient builders understood connections between mathematics, acoustics, and architecture that integrated multiple aspects of their knowledge into unified design systems. The ability to predict and control acoustic effects through mathematical design represents a sophisticated integration of physics, mathematics, and engineering. The precision with which sacred geometry is implemented in megalithic architecture indicates the use of sophisticated measurement and construction techniques. The builders somehow managed to translate abstract mathematical relationships into precise physical dimensions and proportions. This required not only theoretical knowledge, but also practical tools and methods for accurate measurement and construction. The consistency of mathematical relationships across different sites suggests the use of standardized measurement systems and construction techniques that could maintain precision across large projects and different geographical locations. The global consistency of sacred geometric principles in megalithic architecture suggests that this knowledge was widely distributed among ancient builders. The same mathematical relationships appear in monuments separated by thousands of miles and supposedly thousands of years, indicating either direct contact between cultures or inheritance from a common source of mathematical knowledge. The precision with which these relationships are implemented across different sites suggests not only shared theoretical knowledge, but also common practical techniques for translating mathematical concepts into physical construction. The preservation of mathematical knowledge through architectural proportions may have served as a means of maintaining precise numerical information across generations. Unlike written records, which can be lost or destroyed, the mathematical relationships encoded in stone monuments provide permanent preservation of numerical data. Future generations could recover this information by measuring and analyzing the proportions of existing structures. The durability of stone construction would have ensured that mathematical information could survive environmental catastrophes, cultural disruptions, and the passage of millennia. The complexity of mathematical relationships found in megalithic sites also suggests that ancient builders possessed computational techniques for performing complex calculations. The precise implementation of multiple mathematical constants and relationships simultaneously would have required methods for calculating and verifying numerical results. The nature of these computational techniques remains mysterious, as no clear evidence of ancient calculating devices has been found at most megalithic sites. However, the precision of the mathematical relationships suggests that effective computational methods must have existed, whether in the form of physical devices, mathematical techniques, or mental calculation methods. The integration of mathematical, astronomical, and architectural knowledge evident in megalithic sites represents a holistic approach to knowledge that differs from modern specialized disciplines. Ancient builders apparently understood connections between different fields of knowledge and created monuments that simultaneously expressed mathematical principles, astronomical observations, acoustic properties, and architectural functions. This integrated approach to knowledge suggests a worldview that saw these different aspects as interconnected parts of a unified cosmic system rather than separate academic disciplines. As we examine the evidence for connections between megalithic sites and the legendary civilization of Atlantis, we encounter one of the most controversial and intriguing aspects of ancient mystery research. While mainstream archaeology generally dismisses Atlantis as pure fiction, the accumulating evidence for sophisticated prehistoric civilizations and the global distribution of advanced megalithic sites provides a context in which the Atlantis accounts deserve serious reconsideration. The patterns of advanced knowledge and sophisticated construction techniques found at megalithic sites worldwide create a framework that supports the possibility of an advanced prehistoric civilization that matches many aspects of Plato's Atlantis description. The primary source for the Atlantis story comes from the Greek philosopher Plato, who described a powerful maritime civilization that existed 9,000 years before his own time. According to Plato's account, Atlantis was an island empire with advanced technology, sophisticated architecture, and global reach. The civilization was ultimately destroyed by a natural catastrophe that caused the island to sink beneath the ocean in a single day and night. While many scholars have interpreted this account as philosophical allegory, the specific details provided by Plato and the correlation with geological evidence suggest that the story may preserve memories of actual historical events. Modern researchers have noted that Plato's timeline for Atlantis, approximately 9,600 BCE, corresponds closely to the end of the last ice age and the beginning of the Holocene period. This timing coincides with dramatic climate changes, rising sea levels, and the onset of the African humid period that may have enabled the construction of the Great Sphinx. The correlation between Plato's timeline and known geological events suggests that his account may preserve memories of real historical events rather than pure fiction. The dramatic environmental changes of this period would have been sufficient to destroy even advanced civilizations, particularly those based on islands or coastal areas. The description of Atlantis as a maritime civilization with global reach also corresponds to the evidence for widespread contact between ancient cultures evident in megalithic sites. The similarities in construction techniques, astronomical knowledge, and symbolic systems found at sites around the world suggest the existence of a civilization capable of long-distance ocean travel and knowledge transmission. Such a civilization would match Plato's description of Atlantis as a naval power with influence extending across the known world. The sophisticated navigation skills required for global maritime contact would naturally have led to advanced astronomical knowledge, as celestial navigation depends on precise understanding of stellar movements and celestial mechanics. The technological capabilities attributed to Atlantis in Plato's account also parallel the sophisticated engineering evident in megalithic sites. Plato described advanced metallurgy, precision architecture, and sophisticated urban planning that would have required mathematical and engineering knowledge comparable to that demonstrated in the construction of megalithic monuments. The precision cutting of massive stone blocks, the complex astronomical alignments, and the sophisticated acoustic engineering found at these sites all suggest technological capabilities that could support the kind of advanced civilization described in the Atlantis accounts. The catastrophic destruction of Atlantis described by Plato also corresponds to geological evidence for dramatic climate changes at the end of the last ice age. The period between 12,000 and 10,000 years ago saw massive flooding as ice sheets melted, volcanic activity associated with post-glacial rebound, and dramatic shifts in ocean currents and weather patterns. Such conditions could easily have destroyed an island-based civilization and erased most traces of its existence. The global nature of these climate changes would have affected maritime civilizations everywhere, providing a mechanism for the simultaneous collapse of an advanced global culture. The rising sea levels at the end of the Ice Age would have submerged vast areas of previously habitable land, including continental shelves that are now underwater. Many researchers have noted that the most likely locations for advanced prehistoric civilizations would have been coastal areas and islands that are now beneath hundreds of feet of ocean water. The absence of clear archaeological evidence for such civilizations may simply reflect the fact that their remains lie in areas that are difficult or impossible to investigate with current technology. The continental shelves that were exposed during the Ice Age would have provided ideal locations for advanced civilizations, with access to marine resources, favorable climate conditions, and natural harbors for maritime activities. Recent underwater archaeological discoveries have revealed sophisticated structures in various parts of the world that were submerged by rising sea levels after the last ice age. Off the coast of Japan, the Yonaguni Monument appears to be a stepped pyramid structure with precise geometric features that may have been carved by human hands. Similar underwater structures have been reported off the coasts of India, the Mediterranean, and the Caribbean, suggesting that significant archaeological remains may indeed lie beneath the oceans. These discoveries support the possibility that advanced civilizations existed in coastal areas that were subsequently submerged by post-glacial flooding. The global distribution of flood myths and legends of sunken lands in various cultures also supports the possibility that memories of real historical events have been preserved in oral traditions. Cultures around the world preserve stories of advanced civilizations that were destroyed by floods or other catastrophes, often with details that parallel Plato's Atlantis account. The consistency of these traditions across different cultures suggests that they may preserve collective memories of actual historical events rather than independent mythological creations. The transmission of such memories across thousands of years would have required sophisticated oral tradition systems that could preserve historical information with remarkable accuracy. The connection between Atlantis and megalithic sites becomes even more intriguing when we consider the possibility that some megalithic structures may have served as repositories of knowledge from earlier civilizations. The mathematical relationships, astronomical alignments, and symbolic systems encoded in these monuments could represent preserved information from a more advanced predecessor civilization. In this interpretation, megalithic sites would be libraries or archives, preserving the knowledge of Atlantis or similar advanced civilizations for future generations. The durability of stone construction would have ensured that this information could survive environmental catastrophes and cultural disruptions that might destroy other forms of knowledge preservation. The precision and sophistication of megalithic construction techniques also suggest that the builders may have inherited their knowledge from an earlier source rather than developing it independently. The absence of clear developmental sequences at many sites, with the earliest constructions often showing the highest levels of sophistication, supports the idea that advanced knowledge was transmitted from a predecessor civilization rather than developed through gradual technological progress. This pattern is consistent with the preservation and transmission of inherited knowledge rather than independent technological development. The astronomical knowledge encoded in megalithic sites provides another potential connection to Atlantis. Plato described the Atlanteans as having sophisticated understanding of astronomy and mathematics, capabilities that are clearly evident in the precise celestial alignments found at megalithic sites around the world. The global consistency of this astronomical knowledge suggests that it originated from a single source and was subsequently distributed to various cultures and regions. The mathematical sophistication required to calculate and implement precise astronomical alignments across thousands of years would have required the kind of advanced civilization described in the Atlantis accounts. The maritime capabilities attributed to Atlantis would also explain how advanced knowledge could have been transmitted to megalithic sites on different continents. A civilization capable of long-distance ocean travel could have established contact between distant regions and shared technological and scientific knowledge across vast distances. The similarities in construction techniques and astronomical knowledge found at sites separated by thousands of miles would be natural consequences of such contact. The sophisticated navigation skills required for global maritime activities would have necessitated advanced knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and engineering. The symbolic systems found at megalithic sites may also preserve elements of Atlantean knowledge and culture. The consistent use of spirals, circles, and other geometric patterns in megalithic art across different continents suggests a shared symbolic vocabulary that could have originated with a global maritime civilization. These symbols may encode not only mathematical and astronomical information, but also cultural and religious concepts from the Atlantean tradition. The preservation of such symbolic systems across thousands of years and different cultures would have required sophisticated methods for transmitting cultural information along with technical knowledge. The catastrophic climate changes that ended the last ice age provide a plausible mechanism for the destruction of Atlantis and the preservation of its knowledge in megalithic monuments. A global maritime civilization would have been particularly vulnerable to rising sea levels and changing ocean conditions. Survivors of such a catastrophe might have sought refuge in inland areas where they could have established the megalithic sites that preserve their knowledge and cultural traditions. The timing of megalithic construction, which often begins shortly after the end of the Ice Age, supports this interpretation of knowledge preservation by catastrophe survivors. The timing of megalithic construction also supports this interpretation. Many of the most sophisticated megalithic sites date to the period immediately following the end of the Ice Age, when climate conditions were stabilizing and new civilizations were emerging. This timing suggests that megalithic construction may have been undertaken by survivors or descendants of an earlier advanced civilization who were attempting to preserve and transmit their knowledge to future generations. The sophisticated knowledge evident in these early megalithic sites would be consistent with inheritance from an advanced predecessor civilization rather than independent development by emerging post-glacial cultures. The connection between Atlantis and megalithic sites also provides a framework for understanding the apparent decline in construction techniques over time at many sites. If the earliest megalithic builders were working from inherited knowledge rather than developing techniques independently, we would expect to see declining capabilities as this knowledge was gradually lost or diluted over generations. This pattern is indeed observed at many megalithic sites, where later construction phases show less precision and sophistication than earlier work. The gradual loss of inherited technical knowledge would be a natural consequence of cultural disruption and the challenges of preserving complex information across generations without written records. The global nature of the Atlantis connection also explains the worldwide distribution of similar megalithic techniques and knowledge systems. Rather than requiring multiple independent inventions of advanced construction methods, the Atlantis hypothesis suggests that these techniques originated with a single advanced civilization and were subsequently transmitted to various regions through maritime contact or migration. The consistency of construction techniques, mathematical knowledge, and symbolic systems across different continents would be natural consequences of such knowledge transmission from a common source. The evidence for catastrophic climate change at the end of the last ice age provides the final element needed to support the Atlantis connection. The dramatic environmental changes of this period would have been sufficient to destroy even an advanced civilization, particularly one based on islands or coastal areas that were subsequently submerged by rising sea levels. The global nature of these environmental changes would have affected all coastal and island-based civilizations simultaneously, providing a mechanism for the coordinated collapse of an advanced maritime culture. The Younger Dryas period, which lasted from approximately 12,900 to 11,700 years ago, represents one of the most dramatic climate events in recent geological history. This period saw a rapid return to near glacial conditions in the northern hemisphere, followed by an equally rapid warming that marked the beginning of our current interglacial period. The environmental disruption caused by these rapid climate changes would have been devastating to any existing civilizations, particularly those dependent on stable climate conditions for agriculture, navigation, or coastal settlements. Recent research has suggested that the Younger Dryas may have been triggered by a cosmic impact event, possibly a comet or asteroid impact, that caused widespread fires, atmospheric disruption, and climate change. Evidence for such an impact includes a layer of microscopic diamonds, platinum anomalies, and other impact indicators found in geological deposits dating to the beginning of the Younger Dryas period. If confirmed, this impact event would provide a specific mechanism for the catastrophic destruction described in the Atlantis accounts. The global effects of such an impact would explain how an advanced civilization could be destroyed simultaneously across different regions of the world. The end of the Younger Dryas period also coincides with massive flooding as ice dams collapsed and glacial lakes drained catastrophically into the oceans. The release of these glacial waters caused rapid sea level rise and dramatic changes in ocean circulation patterns. Coastal civilizations would have been particularly vulnerable to these changes, and island-based civilizations could have been completely submerged. The scale of these flooding events would have been sufficient to destroy even large and sophisticated coastal settlements, leaving little trace of their existence. The environmental disruption of the Younger Dryas period extended far beyond simple climate change. The rapid temperature fluctuations, changing precipitation patterns, and altered ocean currents would have affected food production, fresh water availability, and the stability of coastal environments. Even technologically advanced civilizations would have struggled to adapt to such rapid and dramatic environmental changes. The combination of climate disruption, flooding, and possible cosmic impact effects would have created conditions capable of destroying even the most sophisticated prehistoric civilizations. The recovery period following the Younger Dryas saw the establishment of the environmental conditions that have characterized our current interglacial period. The warmer, more stable climate enabled the development of agriculture and the rise of the earliest known civilizations in Mesopotamia, Egypt, and other regions. However, the environmental trauma of the Younger Dryas period may have caused a significant setback in human technological and cultural development. The gap between the sophisticated knowledge evident in early megalithic sites and the simpler technologies of early historical civilizations could reflect this disruption and loss of inherited knowledge. The possibility that advanced civilizations existed before the Younger Dryas and were destroyed or severely disrupted by this climate event provides a framework for understanding both the Atlantis accounts and the sophisticated knowledge evident in early megalithic sites. Survivors of Younger Dryas civilizations may have preserved elements of their knowledge and transmitted them to Younger Dryas cultures through oral traditions, symbolic systems, and monumental architecture. The megalithic sites that preserve advanced astronomical and mathematical knowledge could represent the efforts of these survivors to maintain and transmit their cultural and technical heritage. The global nature of Younger Dryas impacts also explains how a worldwide civilization could have been affected simultaneously. Unlike localized disasters that might destroy individual cities or regions while leaving other areas intact, the Younger Dryas represented a global environmental crisis that would have challenged civilizations everywhere. The coordinated collapse of a global maritime civilization would be a natural consequence of such widespread environmental disruption. The recovery from such a global catastrophe would have required the preservation and gradual reconstruction of knowledge and technology from the surviving remnants of the previous civilization. The preservation of advanced knowledge through the Younger Dryas period would have required deliberate efforts to encode information in permanent forms that could survive environmental catastrophe and cultural disruption. Megalithic monuments, with their precise mathematical relationships and astronomical alignments, represent exactly the kind of permanent information storage system that would be needed to preserve knowledge through such a crisis. The durability of stone construction and the encoding of information in architectural proportions would have ensured that critical knowledge could survive even if the civilizations that created it were destroyed or severely disrupted. The investigation of the Great Sphinx continues to yield remarkable discoveries that challenge our understanding of ancient history and human civilization. Recent technological advances have provided unprecedented opportunities to examine the monument using non-invasive techniques that preserve the integrity of this ancient wonder while revealing its hidden secrets. Ground-penetrating radar surveys conducted around the Sphinx have detected numerous anomalies beneath the bedrock, suggesting the presence of chambers, tunnels, or other structures that have remained hidden for millennia. These subsurface features appear to extend far beyond the visible monument, indicating that the Sphinx may be part of a much larger complex than previously understood. Advanced laser scanning and photogrammetry have created detailed three-dimensional models of the Sphinx that reveal subtle architectural features invisible to casual observation. These digital reconstructions have identified tool marks and construction techniques that appear inconsistent with the bronze and copper tools traditionally attributed to ancient Egyptian builders. The precision of certain carved elements suggests the use of advanced cutting technologies that leave characteristic signatures in the stone. The analysis of these tool marks has opened new questions about the technological capabilities of the Sphinx's builders and the methods they employed in its construction. Seismic surveys of the Giza plateau have revealed a complex network of natural and artificial cavities beneath the surface. These underground features include natural limestone caves that may have been modified or expanded by human activity, as well as what appear to be deliberately constructed chambers and passages. The relationship between these subsurface features and the surface monuments suggests a level of planning and engineering that integrated both natural geological formations and human construction into a unified complex. The discovery of these hidden elements has reinvigorated interest in ancient accounts of underground chambers and secret passages associated with the pyramids and Sphinx. Chemical analysis of the limestone blocks used in Sphinx restoration work has provided insights into the original construction and subsequent modifications. Different limestone sources can be identified through their chemical signatures, allowing researchers to distinguish between original construction materials and later additions or repairs. This analysis has revealed that certain portions of the Sphinx were constructed using limestone from sources different from the main body, suggesting either multiple construction phases or the use of specialized materials for specific architectural elements. The implications of these findings extend beyond simple construction history to questions about the monument's original design and purpose. Ongoing archaeological excavations around the Sphinx continue to uncover artifacts and structural remains that provide context for understanding the monument's history and significance. Recent discoveries include pottery fragments, tool remnants, and architectural elements that span multiple historical periods, indicating continuous human activity in the area over thousands of years. The stratigraphy of these archaeological deposits provides a chronological framework for understanding how the site was used and modified throughout history. These findings contribute to a more complete picture of the Sphinx's role in ancient Egyptian civilization and its relationship to surrounding structures. International collaboration has brought together researchers from multiple disciplines to study the Sphinx using complementary approaches. Geologists, archaeologists, astronomers, engineers, and computer scientists are working together to create a comprehensive understanding of the monument that incorporates insights from all relevant fields. This interdisciplinary approach has proven essential for addressing the complex questions raised by the Sphinx's construction, dating, and purpose. The collaboration has also facilitated the sharing of advanced technologies and methodologies that might not be available to individual research teams. The application of artificial intelligence and machine learning to Sphinx research has opened new possibilities for pattern recognition and data analysis. Computer algorithms can identify subtle features in stone surfaces, detect patterns in erosion damage, and analyze astronomical alignments with unprecedented precision. These computational tools are particularly valuable for processing the massive amounts of data generated by modern survey techniques and for identifying relationships that might be missed by human observation alone. The integration of artificial intelligence into archaeological research represents a significant advancement in our ability to extract information from ancient monuments. Climate modeling studies have provided detailed reconstructions of environmental conditions in the Giza area throughout the Holocene period. These models help researchers understand how changing climate patterns would have affected the preservation of the Sphinx and influenced the activities of its builders and subsequent caretakers. The integration of climate data with archaeological evidence provides a more complete picture of how environmental factors shaped the history of the monument and the civilizations that created and maintained it. The preservation challenges facing the Sphinx in the modern era have prompted the development of new conservation techniques and materials. Air pollution, groundwater changes, and tourist activity all pose threats to the monument's long-term survival. Conservation efforts must balance the need to protect the ancient stone with the desire to make the monument accessible for study and public appreciation. Advanced materials science has contributed new approaches to stone conservation that can strengthen weathered limestone while maintaining its historical authenticity. Educational initiatives have brought Sphinx research to global audiences through virtual reality experiences, online databases, and interactive exhibits. These programs allow people worldwide to explore the monument and understand its significance without the physical impact of mass tourism. Digital preservation efforts are creating permanent records of the Sphinx's current condition that will serve as baselines for future conservation work and provide researchers with detailed documentation of the monument's evolution over time. The enduring mystery of the Great Sphinx continues to captivate human imagination and challenge our understanding of ancient capabilities. After more than a century of scientific investigation, fundamental questions about its age, purpose, and builders remain unresolved. The monument stands as a testament to the sophistication of ancient civilizations and the limitations of our current knowledge about human history. Each new discovery raises as many questions as it answers, suggesting that the Sphinx will continue to reward careful study for generations to come. The implications of Sphinx research extend far beyond Egyptology to fundamental questions about human civilization and our place in history. If the monument is indeed older than traditionally believed, it suggests that sophisticated civilizations existed much earlier than previously recognized. This possibility challenges established chronologies and requires us to reconsider the pace and pattern of human cultural development. The advanced knowledge demonstrated in the Sphinx's construction implies that ancient peoples possessed capabilities that we are only beginning to understand and appreciate. The Great Sphinx serves as a bridge between the known and unknown aspects of human history. Its weathered features have witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, the changing of climates, and the evolution of human knowledge. The monument embodies the continuity of human curiosity and the persistent drive to create lasting works that transcend individual lifespans. In its silent vigil over the Giza plateau, the Sphinx reminds us that human achievement extends far beyond our current understanding, and that the past holds secrets that continue to illuminate the present. The ongoing investigation of the Great Sphinx represents more than an archaeological endeavor. It embodies humanity's quest to understand its origins and capabilities. The monument challenges us to question established assumptions, embrace new methodologies, and remain open to possibilities that may reshape our understanding of history. As technology continues to advance and new discoveries emerge, the Sphinx will undoubtedly continue to reveal its secrets gradually, ensuring that this ancient guardian remains relevant to future generations of researchers and dreamers who seek to unlock the mysteries of our shared human heritage.